She is well known for deploying family literacy, that's parents and children learning together, as a pathway to self-sufficiency in hundreds of cities and communities throughout the nation, as well as countries around the world. A thought leader in the space, Sharon serves as an advisor on education issues for governors, policymakers, business leaders, and foundations. Sharon's work has created new educational models, helping more than 4 million families in the US achieve success. And it's currently reaching more than 15 million teachers, parents, and students through the award-winning Wonderopolis website. In fact, Camp Wonderopolis, which is a free digital summer camp, has garnered much attention nationwide from prominent media outlets as a great option during the pandemic. Sharon has held key leadership positions at the local, state, and national level, and serves on the boards of numerous national and international organizations. She frequently testifies in Congress, and her work has been instrumental in shaping state and federal policies and laws that address critical societal issues such as welfare reform, education reform, and the development of a skilled workforce. Sharon's awards and recognitions are many, but I do want to highlight just a few. The first being the National Humanities Medal presented by President George W. Bush. She also received the Albert Schweitzer Prize for Humanitarianism from Johns Hopkins University, the Harold W. McGraw Award for Outstanding National Educator, and the Woman of Distinction Award from Birmingham Southern University. In addition, she's been featured on the Arts and Entertainment Television Network series Biography and inducted into the Frederick Douglass Hall of Fame on Capitol Hill. In Kentucky, she's been recognized with honorary doctorates from Spalding University and Bellarmine University, and has received both the Distinguished Alumni Award and the Alumni Fellow Award from the University of Louisville. It is my honor to introduce Sharon Darling to the club.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you, Julie, for your passion for literacy. I'm so excited about that. I just think that I've worked with the International Rotary Group when their focus was literacy. So I did a keynote speech at Calgary for the international group, and I did one in Indianapolis. Oh. And so I would love to see Rotary really in the Louisville community make such a statement about literacy that we're going to be the most literate community in the country. So thank you for your leadership in that, and thank you, Ashley, for that wonderful introduction. And I guess I'd have to say that, you know, I'm the literacy lady. So, you know, as you could tell from the introduction, so I'm the kind of person that when you walk into a social gathering, you know, everybody moves to the other side. They kind of look down at the floor like, here she comes again. She's going to talk to me about literacy one more time. So I have to say that on behalf of my friends and family, they thank you as well, because the more I get to talk to you, the less they have to listen to it. So anyway, it's just great to be with you in Rotary. Excuse me, all of a sudden my voice seems to want to not cooperate, so I apologize for that. I really am so excited to talk about the National Center for Family Literacy being headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, because I think we're one of the best known secrets in education right here in our home community. I think we're better known in Los Angeles or New York or Springdale, Arkansas, or the 49 Native American reservations where we work than we are right here in our home community. And we made a decision 5 years ago that we really wanted to change that. And we wanted to see what we could do to really contribute to the literacy levels in our community, and to make sure that we could use this as the national spotlight for what can happen in a community if we all work together and if we look at literacy in a more holistic way. So at the National Center for Families Learning, we work right now in 150 cities and communities across the country in very intensive work, bringing together parents and children to learn. We've worked with 4.5 million families over the time that we've been in existence, and those are in very intensive ways, not just a, you know, kind of come in and do a speech or come in and tell people exactly what to do, but really to dig in deep and see what a difference we could make every day in our organization. It really is about, has anything changed for families? It doesn't matter that we might have the best training or we might have the best research, but what's changing on the ground? Are families better? Are they moving out of poverty? Are children succeeding? Are adults getting jobs and able to help their children? So that's what we judge ourselves on. As Ashley said, we have Wonderopolis as a great resource. It's gotten a lot of national attention. The camp has right now. Wonderopolis has won a lot of awards. If you have children, grandchildren, this is a terrific way to help them be engaged in learning. It's exciting. We really have set out to really tap into the inquiry and creativity in young children. and it's maybe second grade through middle school, and it's great. It's a great resource. So check it out. We're in summer camp right now, and it's just as Ashley said, it's just been featured on Good Morning America. It's been on MSN. It's been on all over the news lately as one of the 5 best camps, virtual summer camps that children can engage in. So with the learning loss that many of our children are experiencing, this is really a great asset. So I hope that you'll check it out and be proud that it comes from Louisville, Kentucky. We have 128 countries using it right now, and it's translated into 80 different languages. So we're proud of that. At NCFL, we have offices, statewide offices in Nebraska and Arizona. And then we're also working statewide in 12 states to help states really come to grips with what they could do for all parents and how we could engage them in their children's learning so that we can see the boost in achievement test scores for the children by working predominantly with their parents and helping their parents connect to the schools and other agencies. The staff at NCFL, I can't say enough about. They are just incredible. We've moved people from all over the country to be here with us in Louisville and move their families here. The only complaint I get is about the humidity in the summer for many of them. And then I think a woman from Denver said in the winter, does the sun ever shine here? So we have had a few complaints about the weather, but other than that, we've just had a wonderful group of people who are experts in early childhood education, community development, adult literacy, and we bring those together, not in silos, but how do we work together to figure out how we raise all of our populations up we say from the twinkle to the wrinkle. So we work with children who are infants and toddlers all the way through adult education. So that's kind of who we are, and I hope that you're proud that we're here in Louisville. We've had a lot of push and pull to move to other parts of the country, DC particularly. And then when our funders originally funded it, they're from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we're determined that this was going to be a center there. So I really appreciate the fact that we're here, and I hope you do as well. So I want to talk a little bit about our mission. Our mission is really to eradicate poverty, work to eradicate poverty through education solutions for families. So in other words, a 2-generational approach, a multi-generational approach to really overcoming the challenges that we face in education in the nation and the challenges that we face in poverty. So it really, family is key. And I think right now we can all realize what we're depending on in terms of family with the COVID, with Black Lives Matter, with all the things that are going on in our community. And the family has become the rock. I mean, parents have become the teachers of children. Parents are the nurturers and breadwinners, and the families are oftentimes the ones in poverty are very ill prepared to be able to meet those challenges. And we really have to be thinking about that. And how do we build in supports for families to play this role, particularly those who are struggling themselves with their own literacy and their own poverty? So that's our mission statement. So the why of our work, when I started this organization over 30 years ago now, it grew out of work that I had been doing and taught second grade for a number of years in Jefferson County Public Schools. But I became pregnant with my first child. And back in the dark ages, when you were 6 months pregnant, you had to get out of the classroom because the children might see a bulge and you'd have to explain it. And so you had to leave. And so you had to bring a doctor's note, and then you had to stay out for another, I think it was 6 months again. So at the time, after I had my child, I started teaching adults to read in a church basement, and that kind of brought it all together for me. There were so many adults in our community who were just struggling every day, and they were so ashamed that they couldn't read, and they were hiding it. It was such a hidden problem, but it was such a big problem. And 5 people became 50 and 100, and so pretty soon I was working hard on trying to overcome the adult literacy challenge, and I started working for the National Governors Association, helping other states do the same so that we could really think about this hidden problem and bringing it to the forefront and what it might mean for economic development in our states. But to me, then, those were challenges. I mean, we had a huge number of adults who couldn't read. We had a huge number of children who were failing in our schools. Our poverty statistics were abysmal for a country this size and this wealthy. So that's what really propelled me to think about how could I do something more systemic, that it really wasn't just about educating adults or educating children. How could we really help this family in this home really focus on education and be able to help each other and nurture each other's learning? And so that's what really started family literacy. So I'd like to say, the challenges that we had in the past when we did all the studies, we've done a lot of studies on adult literacy. And I can tell you that from 10 years to 10 years and the next 10 years, that the situation is actually getting worse. And that's really not good news. But when we looked at it some years ago and compared it to 10 years prior, what we found was that in every category we went backwards. That if you didn't have a high school diploma, you were lower. If you had a high school diploma, you were lower. If you, in college, college students were really the biggest percentage loss. So it was really astounding to me to think about those statistics. And so you'd like to think that today, in this day and time, that those challenges have been met. I mean, good heavens, we've done everything we can think of to do. You know, we've had all kinds of initiatives in our schools. We find another shiny penny and we think this is the answer, this is the silver bullet. We've also looked at, you know, governors and mayors and others have had just incredible resources thrown to education to try to think what can we do in our communities, and this will work and this will work. And we've looked as educators at early childhood, and we look at middle school, high school, and we think, oh, there it is. If we could just get them ready for school, that's going to solve it. If we could just not have them drop out, if we could look at, but the fact is that we know something and we've known for a very long time. And when we look at the statistics in Jefferson County, I think they're pretty dire. We know that 2/3 of our children are not reading proficient by third grade. 2/3 are not reading proficient. And we know that the number of children living in poverty is pretty astounding as well, that 60% of Jefferson County Public School students are on free and reduced lunch. So we know that that's a huge, huge challenge because children who are living in poverty enter our schools 2 or more years behind, and they enter with a lot of things going on in their life. So we know that we have huge challenges. We know also that 1 in 5 of our children is chronically absent from school. What does that mean? It means that they're missing more than 18 days of school a year. And when you think about that and the learning loss, but you also think about the monetary loss. I mean, in our district, we get paid daily for the children who attend school. So if they're missing 18 days of school, that's money that we're missing that we really could be doing something more for the children in poverty and education. So when we think about that, it's not just about poverty of, you know, children living in poverty, that they don't have the right sneakers or the right clothes. It really is much more profound than that. It affects their cognitive development, the trauma that they often see in the home, the trauma in their neighborhoods. They bring that baggage to school. And when we think about teachers and what they face every day trying to overcome some of those circumstances so that they can teach, I think our hats have to be off to the work that they do and the incredible effort that they put forth every day. But what about their parents? You know, if they're living in poverty, we know that the median household income in Louisville and Jefferson County is far below the national average. We know that the poverty level for adults in our community is far below the national average. We know that African Americans are almost twice as likely to be poor, and currently there are 50,000 people in our community that don't have a high school diploma, and 10% don't speak English. So those are not statistics that we want to live with. We really want to do something about that in this community because we can. But when we look at it, we think about what we've tried and, you know, the fact that we have still these challenges, we know something about how children will be successful in our schools. We know a lot of it's about poverty and we try to overcome poverty. But when you think about it, we really don't have any poor children. We spend a lot of money on poverty children, but there are no poor children in our communities. There are children who live with poor adults, and the adults are poor because they don't have the skills that they need to climb out of poverty. So it really is it's something that comes together. It's intergenerational, and it's a challenge that we have to meet with an intergenerational solution. So if I said to you, what do you think the one variable is that flows through whether or not a child will be successful in school? If you thought about that, just think about it for a minute. What would you say is the one thing that is the most predictive of how well a child's going to do in school? I can tell you it's the educational attainment of the parent in the home, particularly the mother. So when you think about that, it's incumbent upon us to do something beyond what we can do in our schools. 90% of a child's time from the time they're born until they're 18 is not spent in our institutions or our schools. It's spent in the home and the family and the community. So we really need a three-legged stool. We need something that says, you know, we're going to work with the family in the home and help parents do what they want to do with their children, and that is help them succeed. We need something that the community is going to embrace, and the community is going to take ownership for all children learning in our schools. And then we have to have absolutely excellent schools, which is the very, very important leg of that stool. But I also know that the research tells us, and I'm just going to read one research blurb to you because it comes from the National Institutes of Health, and the National Institutes of Health, NICHD, the National Institute of Health and Child Development, is the gold standard for research. You know, when they come out with something, it's thorough, and they've done a great job, and they look at the data and they look at the science. So a couple of years ago, there was a release of a study that they had done, and the headline read, "Improving mothers' literacy skills may be the best way to boost children's achievement." They were children that they studied ages 3 to 17, and they studied everything about those children. There were 2,000 of them in this study. They looked at their scores, they looked at their assets, their income, their neighborhood poverty, they looked at everything they could find to try to say, what is it that we can find that we could actually work on to make a difference? They said researchers funded by the NIH concluded that the programs to boost academic achievement of children from low-income neighborhoods might be more successful if they also provided adult literacy education to parents, which is exactly what we do. The researchers based this conclusion on their finding that a mother's reading skill is the greatest determinant of her children's future academic success, outweighing other factors such as neighborhood and family income. So if we know that, it's very difficult to try to convince anybody that we can actually solve it in just our schools. We really have to look beyond that, because if we want to get children out of poverty in those circumstances, we really need a comprehensive, and that's where family literacy comes in. The name of our organization, when I founded it, was the National Center for Family Literacy, and we changed to Family Learning because we broadened our scope of what we do. But I want to show you a brief video that talks a little bit about family literacy and what that is. And Ashley is my film person.
Multi-generation family literacy has the power to break the generational cycle of poverty by empowering parents and children to meet their academic and economic potential.
Who's heard of a glossary before?
The National Center for Families Learning created the Family Literacy and Family Learning concepts, and data shows the programs consistently make life-changing impacts on families, schools, and communities by helping participants thrive.
It's been a tremendous change for our community. It's been a tremendous change for our schools.
It really does bridge what we do at school with our families, and it helps us to educate the families about how they can work with their students.
The four-component model of family literacy includes adult education, parent time, parent and child together, or PAC time, and child education.
The components consist of adult education, where we provide either ESL classes, GED classes, or some kind of vocational training for that parent or the generation that's the guardian for the child.
To really show to their kids, like, look, I'm coming to class too. This matters to me. Your education is so important that I'm showing up to school 3-4 days a week to learn more about their school and to even improve their own English skills so that they can help them with the homework.
In parent time, it's a little less formal, a little less structured than the adult education. It's more based on what is the goal of the parent or the guardian, and what do they want to learn about? What kind of workshops do they want, whether it's financial literacy, whether it's healthy cooking.
We also have PAC time, and that's where parents go into their child's classroom to learn alongside their children. Parents can understand what's going on and begin to understand how it functions, the classroom functions, and eventually be able to ask the teacher perhaps about assignments.
So do you think that smells good or bad? All right.
It empowers our parents to be part of their children's academic success.
The parents see their part in how they can help their child be successful in school by getting them to school and seeing the importance of education and understanding that they do play a part in the behavior piece.
Together.
Then we have child literacy, where the children are actually in school. The school-age children are in school every day. We also provide childcare for children that are not quite in school. So they are receiving education as well.
Is your caterpillar going to eat pasta?
Yep.
So the advantage of having family literacy at the building site is that it's been documented that the kids will do better in school, their test scores go up, they have better attendance, Parents attend more school functions, therefore the children are also there at school functions. We see better participation in parent-teacher conferences and also just basic overall school events.
While family literacy is often offered in school environments, family learning programs may be offered in community centers and libraries. Family learning includes parent time, pack time, family service learning, and adult skill building. During this time, adults set education and personal goals and develop work skills with the intention of using them to get new or better jobs.
This will translate into employability skills, and this is something that they will be able to take into new jobs. We've seen parents from previous years do that.
Social media and technology, okay? So
Learning to talk with each other, learning to collaborate, learning to schedule things, organize. Definitely, I think that's the most important part of the project. Even technology skills too, they're building that within service.
We've seen a lot of our families be able to get jobs, to get better housing, and we've really been able to see a growth in their self-esteem and their self-worth. We also get to see them being more involved with their children in school and being more involved in their children's learning.
Research shows increased family engagement counterbalances risk factors for children, while it improves self-efficacy and empowers adults. The result is a compounding positive effect on student achievement over time.
Key is staying true to the model. Our administrators and our superintendent is very much behind the program. It has been proven to be one of the best family engagement programs within our school system. It's very cost effective. It's a very simple model, very easy to operate.
This work really does change families for generations to come in so many positive ways.
Thank you, Ashley. So you can see that that's family literacy. And I just want to talk a little bit about the parent time, because parents come together and they start to learn from each other and they start to know what they can do to support each other, and they keep each other coming and they keep each other moving forward. Time when the parents spend with their children is really the secret sauce. And that is whether it's in an early childhood classroom or in a regular school, they actually spend time with their child in the classroom. And they learn how their children learn. They learn what they can do at home. They participate. They don't just observe, they participate. It sounds more complicated than it is to implement. There are all kinds of resources that already exist that we can glue together in new ways and really look at a holistic approach to education. Results have been incredible. I want to just talk a minute about family service learning because that was referenced there. That's something we've added on to a family literacy, and then it stands alone in a lot of communities as well. We look at parents in our communities of poverty, in poverty communities, we very seldom ask them what it is that they want to solve in their community. We come in with our ideas that they need food, they need housing, they need these things. But rarely do we say, what do you think the biggest challenges are in your community that you would like to see overcome? We bring parents together and they go through a 6-step process. It's not about giving a day of service or one activity. It's a long process of problem solving. So they identify what it is they want to solve in their community, and then they work within their group to come together, to think together, to plan together, to go and do the research. But it's a 6-step process we learned from Toyota because it's their national or their worldwide problem solving system. So we're using that with our families. And, you know, after the first year that we did that, we're in 40 cities and communities with that program. And the first year we did it, 54% of the parents got a job or a better job. And we thought, wow, that's really not what we were after. We really wanted them to take ownership of their community and realize that it is their community, not our community. It's theirs, and they can make an impact. So then we started looking at how do we tie this to employment. So we're working a lot with welfare agencies in other states, helping them think about this as a conduit. You know, many people have not even worked for 10 years, and then their children start to school and they have an opportunity to go to work, but they have no skills. And the average student we work with, adult, is reading somewhere around a 4th grade level. So how is it that we start to overcome some of that? Well, if they go out in the community and they're seen as really viable to the community and they're doing things that help, they can go to an employer and they can document the skills that they've learned because we've matched those to the employability skills that employers say they need. They can say, yes, I haven't worked in 10 years, but I've been volunteering to clean up the parks, or I've been volunteering to make things more beautiful at the school, or I've been volunteering to do something about crime or bullying or anything that's a problem in their community. And it's interesting to hear parents say, I never knew we could do anything like that. I thought the city was responsible for that, and we would get in trouble if we tried to do it. So just to give people the freedom to understand, and it's alongside their children, so their children are seeing service for the next generation. They're seeing giving back. They're seeing owning their communities. And I truly believe if we'd had that in more areas in Louisville right now, we wouldn't be facing some of the challenges that we're facing, because those challenges would have been dealt with all along the way, and we would have had voices that were telling us what needed to happen in our communities. So family service learning has been a rich and robust kind of addition to the work that we're doing around the country, and Toyota has taken ownership of that as well. So Toyota has been our biggest funder. They've given us over $50 million, and beyond that, they've given us so much expertise from all of their community people and their international. So Dr. Toyota has visited programs many times, as Akio, and all the Japanese around the world have come to visit. So they understand, they want to know for sure what's going on, so they know how to help us. So the results have been astounding. Detroit, they're showing 16 more days of schooling in K-3 if you come to family literacy programs. Los Angeles did a huge study that they could show that the children who had been to family literacy programs continued to excel all the way through school. We've had research, as you can imagine, in 30 years. We've had studies that measure just about everything. And I can assure you that we're seeing some astounding results. But the most important thing to me is what we did last year, because what I'm trying to accomplish, and what we are at the National Center, is to say this will change this generation, and they have 3 children, and those 3 children are going to have 3 children, and those 3 children are going to have 3 children, and the generations are going to continue to change, and that ripple effect from just working with one family is what we want to see. So we were fortunate this past year in the 30 years to have Guthrie Mays. Ashley Bauer has been extremely instrumental in that work, and Andy Eggers, to go out and find students who had been in the program 30 years ago, who now have children and some have grandchildren, to put our money where our mouth is. Is the next generation different? Can we see the ripple effects of the things that happen to this parent in family literacy? So I want to just show you a video from one of those people, Regina Lynn, who's really a favorite of mine. I met her in 1988.
We were her sidekicks. We grew up being trained to steal and rob, and my mother was a felon. We all had a job to do when we went in a store.
Her mother didn't care for females to start with at all, so she kind of took that against her and was very mean to her. Physical abuse, verbal abuse.
We lived a wild life, my 3 brothers and me. She trained them to fight and to rob and steal, and that's what eventually cost one their life, put the other one in prison, and caused the other one to wind up in mental institutions. The difference in my 3 brothers and me is the family literacy program.
I would go to sleep at night and I would hear the sound of the typewriter. And when I would wake up to get ready for school, I would still be hearing the sound of the typewriter. And that moment replays in my mind, because many times when there's situations that are difficult or I'm struggling, I literally hear that typewriter. And I'm like, if my mom can be what she was to us and stay up all night long studying and get up and go to school and take care of us every day, I've got this, I can do this.
How are you? Didn't think this day'd ever come. Here we are, 30 years later. Hey, Regina, how are you? I'm good.
And I think we made like 3 home visits to Regina before we convinced her that she could do it. no confidence in herself. But when Regina left us, Regina's held her head up high and was proud of herself and proud of her children. And her children were absolutely thrilled with her too.
The literacy program was her safety net along with Mildred. Mildred was a go-to person.
She's super talented. I mean, smart as they come because she worked for it. She just didn't wake up that way. She had it in her always. And without that opportunity at the family literacy program, all that would have been for nothing.
I want them to have a reference point so they cannot forget how far we've come, because we started here and I went up just a little, just a little. They'll never start there now because they'll start here and their children will start here. And I've witnessed it at my 3 grandchildren's graduations.
And education was a priority to my mom, and watching her and learning from her, it made it important to me too. In fact, I graduated high school a year and a half early.
It did take 5 years, but I graduated with honors with a degree in social work, and I went to work at our own county Department of Social Service. The same social worker that removed me from the home when I was 15 became my supervisor. When we were on the beach, I was thinking about how wonderful it was to see the grandchildren run and play and be free like children are supposed to be, and that they were safe. My main priority in raising my children was figuring out how to keep them safe.
My life has been changed for it. I'm sure that all of my kids and their kids and so on will have a different life because of it. It will last throughout all these generations. Otherwise, the future that we had in our stars was not very bright. But sometimes all it takes is that one chance. We got lucky enough to get that chance, thanks to the Family Literacy Program.
I wanted you to hear Regina's story, but it's just one story. You know, there are so many stories, and I know Ashley can tell you too from being around the country and interviewing people. You know, the Maldonados that I met, and they were from Mexico and lived in a garage when I met them. You know, their children have gone on to just do astounding things. They're so talented, and they got full rides to UCLA. So my point is that, you know, it does have a ripple effect, but also what are we losing in our society if we don't do that? You know, the children that are not going to be reaching their goals or making their dreams come true. We can't afford that as a society. We need to educate everybody in our country, and it is about education and literacy if we're going to survive. So I want to also talk a little bit about what we're doing in Louisville because I'm very excited to talk about that. We're in intensively in 5 community centers with this family literacy program. Should we be in 5? No, we ought to be in 50 because there's so much need and people are hungry for this work. We're seeing some phenomenal results here in Louisville, but we don't come in and say we own this. We come in and try to work with the agencies that are already touching children's lives, whether it's a school or community-based organization, to help them be the ones that are going to be implementing this kind of work because they're on the front lines every day. We're doing work with infants and toddlers. I'm really excited about that. That's the work that we're doing to help parents at an early age understand about talking to their children and how important that is. You know, the words that you say, and, you know, it's not natural for a lot of parents. I mean, they're changing a diaper. I mean, why am I going to talk to this child who can't talk back to me? But if we can get parents in the habit of doing that, it really pays such big dividends in terms of later reading success. And so we have this little Fitbit for words, which is really cool. It's called Lena. And the children, these infants and toddlers, wear this little vest and it has a little thing in it that measures words. So every word the parent speaks to the child is there. And then the parent can check online on their phone if they have a smartphone. If not, when they come into the program for their class, they can check how many words they spoke to their child. So it's really cool. It's not, the gimmick itself is not going to solve the problem, but it gets parents in the habit of doing something that we know they need to do. And it's really fun for them, and they become very competitive. And one of our staff members tried to put their child in front of the TV so they could watch the football game, but it does not register if it's just the television talking. So I think it really is accurate what they're doing. So that's really cool. The preschool work that we're doing, we're trying to reach all those families who are not connected to a formal preschool during this COVID-19 pandemic, and getting books into the home, getting literacy packets, and really easy things that parents can do with their children to keep the learning. We work with teachers all across Jefferson County in early childhood education to help them infuse research-based strategies into the work that they're doing with children, but most importantly, how to take those strategies into the home. K-12, we're working in 120 or 103 Title I schools from elementary school all the way through. And I'm really excited about that work because we're able to go into the schools and talk with the principal and the lead on parent engagement and take them where they are and help them get to the next level. So we can send our experts in, and it's fun because when we do this around the country, we can't be right there. So we can't be consistent, and we come in and do one thing for everybody. So here we can take people where they are and move them ahead, and we're seeing some great results. We have a parent council of 120 parents, and they're learning. They come together every month, and now they're coming together by Zoom, but they learn all kinds of things about, now they're learning about online instruction so they can help the parents because they're right in the communities. So they can go out and be our eyes and ears to let us see what the challenges are and what the nation has kind of clicked off the box that we've done this great job with online learning when in fact, we're far away from that, but I have to give it to Jefferson County. I mean, they have just done an amazing turnaround in trying to get this all set up with Chromebooks and hotspots and really working at it. And I know we've got a long way to go. So the work that we're doing in Jefferson County is really great work, and I'm excited about that and glad to share that with you because everything we do is trying to bring a holistic approach. I can talk about it in separate increments, but together we want to make literacy the key here. So I want to just, I don't know, Ashley, I don't think we probably have time for the video about Chloe, do we?
Why don't we answer a few questions, and then if there's still time.
Okay.
This question from Tracy Holiday. He was wondering, what's the size of your staff and what are the primary sources of your funding? You touched on Toyota, but tell us a little bit more globally.
Great. Our funding, the way we do our work is that we really use private dollars to go in and demonstrate an innovation. We see what the community wants and then how our innovation fits. And we use private dollars to stimulate federal dollars, state dollars, and local dollars because that's where the big money is. Private foundations and corporations play a critical role because they allow us to be flexible. They allow us to get into a community and actually demonstrate what works. And then we go to Congress, we go to state legislators, and we go to local communities and say, look, this is working better than what you're now spending your money on. You might want to think about, because this is getting better outcomes for your buck and the return on investment is better. So that's how we work. Funders, I just want to mention the funders in Louisville really quickly because I'm so proud of they've all come together to do that. Toyota, I mentioned before. PNC Bank has just been incredible, and I'm on their national board for philanthropy, and I'm telling you, what they've done in early childhood education in this nation is just amazing for a corporation. So, and their volunteer program as well. William R. Keenan Jr. Charitable Trust, that's who started the organization. They came to me and said, come to North Carolina and do this work. I said, no. So they said they'd stay in Louisville. So they're still funding us, and they're funding us to do work here in Louisville. The Lift a Life Foundation has been just incredibly helpful to us in the early childhood space. James Graham Brown, there's nobody on this call that's not known the James Graham Brown Foundation. I'm sure they've done so much work in our community, and now they're really helping with COVID-19. CENS Foundation has been a strong supporter of ours for a number of years. The Gaines Foundation, Snowy Owl Foundation, and Bloomberg Philanthropies is investing in Louisville now with the same Play with Words. So we have great funders that are here locally, and nationally, that's the way we do our work. I go to Congress and say, look at these results, they're better than the others, and now you need to put this into each piece of legislation that deals with parents and children. So hopefully that answers that.
Yes, very good. How many people do you all have, Sharon?
Oh, how many people do we have? We have, I think, 50 on staff in Louisville, and then we have people across the country that are working for us as adjunct folks or remote employees. So I'm still trying to get used to the remote employee thing, but
yes,
it's working well, and I think we're all seeing that now with our isolation.
This question was asking which community in Kentucky you think needs the most help in improving literacy?
Well, I'd like to say it's communities in Eastern Kentucky and elsewhere, and everybody needs it. But, when you look at our statistics in Louisville, we have some of the worst performance literacy levels, and we have a lot of immigrant population here don't speak English and their children don't have a lot of chances. I think everybody needs it, but I think Louisville probably talking about urban community particularly.
Yes. Yes, I think it's one of those things that people don't necessarily know the data. And when they do hear the data, as you just described earlier, it's pretty, frightening, really, when you find out that many children are behind and not reading at grade level. There's been some reports that if a child is not reading by 3rd grade, 4th grade, maybe it's California that was modeling how many prison beds that state would need. Does that still hold true, or do you see that as well?
It absolutely is true. By the 3rd grade, when I was talking about working on vocabulary, by the 3rd grade, vocabulary is the showstopper, and that comes from a lack of resources in the home and the family. But yes, that's true, because at 3rd grade is when we quit teaching reading skills, because we've already taught the rudimentary skills, for technical skills for reading, sounding out, and phonics, and all those things. 3rd grade, we start using those skills for content knowledge. And if you don't have those skills, and 2/3 of our elementary children do not, it's very difficult then to go on. And so 3rd grade is kind of a showstopper, because the further you go, the behinder you get after that, and we see all kinds of consequences.
Yeah. This question is from Lauren George from the Back Learning Center, or BLC. I know it's the backside of the track. Can you speak some on how NCFL has been addressing the digital divide for families?
Yes, we're working hard to do that. And it's really difficult in this day and time, because a lot of the places where we work, Indian reservations, for example, don't even have cell phone service. So we're when I talked about the ambassadors that we have, the parent ambassadors, the parent council, those are the people that we're depending on to go into the homes to really help them understand how they would work with their children, what they could do with this technology. And then for those who don't have the technology, trying to make sure that somebody can be providing that. But it's not enough to provide it. We have to have that coach that's going to be with parents who really have never experienced anything with technology. So, and I want to say that the Backside Learning Center, I mean, they are a hero in our community. I just love their work. And I had a chance to go and visit this Say and Play with Words program at the Backside Learning Center. And a lot of the fathers were there, and because they hadn't gone on to another location yet, but the mothers tend to stay here when the fathers go to another track. But just listening to what those parents were doing with the children and the work that they do at Backside is just phenomenal.
Ashley, is there time for your last video?
I think so.
Okay, terrific.
This is somebody that's from Louisville, and I've known her for a number of years because she was in the 1988 program. And when we started, she called me one day and said, "You don't remember me, but my name's Chloe, and I was in one of the first programs in family literacy." And she works now for American Airlines. It was US Air then. And she said, "And I found your luggage." And I thought, well, there you go. That's really an achievement.
Gate B6 is going to be your gate. They board at 12 o'clock. This is your plane check to pick up your bag. Thank you. If I can make one person's life better when they come, then I've done my job for the day. And I love that. You know where I'm from? Martin County. Oh, cool. You know where that's at?
On tonight's American Agenda, an issue that has a direct effect on 25% of all American families, parents who dropped out of school and as a result end up with low-income jobs end up having negative feelings about school, which they pass on to their kids.
Family literacy played a big role in my life. I was in the Keenan Family Literacy Program in 1989. I had quit school in the 11th grade of high school. Had 3 kids by the time I was 21. I had no car. I had no way of getting around. And then when, things get tough as you get older, you just kind of give up. And that's where I was. At first I was like, oh my goodness, I could actually go back to school and, be able to do this with my child was just amazing. I was able to drop right off at the door and then go right next door and then work on my education.
GED certificate.
What I learned in the program to push them to learn as much as they can learn and continually to strive for the best in their education.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that equals 6.
Okay. It makes me excited to see where my kids' career paths have gone.
How are you today?
Their families are doing well. And you just put them on that scale right over there, ma'am. As a mom that quit school in 11th grade, I never really had the opportunity to have somebody around me to push me and help me succeed. It makes me very proud that I've raised 3 kids that have succeeded.
Thank you. I want to leave you with just one challenge. I think it's a story about a man who went to seminary. He wanted to be a minister, and he got his first church down in rural Kentucky. And he was excited. He went down there the first day, and he was all excited, and he had practiced, and he had a great sermon. And midway through, this man stood up and said, "Use me, Lord. Oh, use me, Lord." So he went back the next week. He lost his place and everything, but he thought, at least I inspired somebody. So he went back the next week, and there he was in the middle of his sermon. The man stood up again and said, "Use me, Lord. Oh, use me, Lord." Well, then he didn't care, if he inspired somebody or not, because he was off everything. He didn't have, he was just all mixed up. And so he went back the next week, and the man stood up again and said, "Use me, Lord. Oh, use me, Lord." And he said, "The Lord spoke to me last night. He said he wants to use you. He wants you to sand down all the pews in the church and put varnish on them." So he couldn't wait to get back the next week. He walked in, the church was beautiful, everything was shiny, and the man had done the job. So he couldn't wait. I mean, he could hardly concentrate on his sermon. Midway through, the man stands up again and says, "Use me, Lord. Oh, use me in an advisory capacity." So I think with Rotary, that's not what happens. You roll up your sleeves and get the job done. And I hope the job that you want to do is making our community the most literate one in Kentucky and in the nation. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Sharon, thank you so much. You've inspired us, and we're just so appreciative of your dedication. And like I said, you are truly a builder of hope, which I think that's really at the nugget of all of this. And the videos have shown it, sharing the lives of others. So thank you so much. We're really honored to have you.
Thank you.
As a reminder, please consider who to invite and register for the upcoming Business Synergy events. Details will be forthcoming in your email, and so be looking for that, as Mike shared a little bit about that earlier. And I just want to say happy 4th of July to each and every one of you, and God bless America. This meeting is adjourned.